Good afternoon. I'm Scott Ryder. As I look around the audience today, I can see every age group, every gender, and every nationality. Now, the subject we're going to talk about today affects every single one of us. That subject is congestive heart failure and heart health for you and your family. Well, according to the Journal of American College of Cardiology, congestive heart failure is when the heart doesn't pump blood as efficiently as it should. Now, nearly 5 million Americans throughout the U.S. have congestive heart failure. So in one way or another, this affects every single one of us. And we as a group need to take the precautions that we can to prevent this disease. So, according to JohnsHopkinsMedicine.org, what are the ways to prevent this disease? Well, first and foremost, one that has been driven into our heads since young children is stop smoking, and better yet, never start. Number 2 is if we're overweight, lose the pounds. Number 3, exercise. Number 4, if it's something that we cannot prevent, if it's a birth defect, listen to your doctors, listen to your cardiologists, take the proper precautions, take your medications that help prevent this disease from getting worse. And number 5, dental health. And one will think, dental health, that has nothing to do with my heart. That is not the case. Any bacteria that gets into your gums can travel through your body, through your vessels, and it will attack your heart. So dental health is very important for your heart. Now, to know how to prevent congestive heart failure, we need to know its symptoms. Well, the symptoms are shortness of breath. And now this isn't running a marathon, shortness of breath. This is shortness of breath as we're laying down to go to sleep at night. Number 2 is edema. Now edema is, as your heart is pumping, when it has congestive heart failure, it doesn't have the ability to pump as efficiently as it should, so fluid begins to build up in your feet and your other extremities, your hands. And number 3 is weakness. Now there's 4 types of congestive heart failure. Number 1 is cardiomyopathy. Now let's put ourselves in the mindset of a bodybuilder. We're in the gym doing curls, to get our biceps nice and strong. The larger and the thicker that bicep is, the stronger it is. Well, one would think, the thicker and the larger the heart muscle is, the stronger it must be, but that is quite the contrary. We do not want our heart to become thick. As it becomes thicker, it does not pump as efficiently. So an enlarged heart is not a good thing. So, the second type of congestive heart failure is valvular disease. Now we have 4 valves in our heart. We have our tricuspid valve, our pulmonary valve, our mitral valve, and our aortic valve. Now over time, as we as Americans are not exercising and not eating correctly and doing things like eating high sodium diets, our heart, for example, our aorta can become stenotic, and that those leaflets of that valve begin to calcify. Now this is a normally open valve and a normally closed valve. So that's a nice wide opening for that blood to come rushing out of your aorta and go through your body's systems. And as it closes, it doesn't allow blood back in. But as that valve becomes stenotic, as you can see, it's a very narrow opening for that blood to flow out of. And can you imagine that valve closing very well? No. So that blood will leak back through. So that heart is working so hard to get that blood to pump out of that small opening that it becomes enlarged, because it's working hard at all times. And also, that blood is leaking back through into that ventricle, so it has to pump so much more blood because blood is continually leaking back into your heart. So that heart muscle will become thick and not pump as efficiently as it should. So oftentimes, according to the article Aortic Valve Replacement, Choice Between Mechanical Valves and Bioprosthesis, the Daniel Fink University Hospital, Jerusalem, aortic surgery will be necessary. So you have a choice between a mechanical valve or a prosthetic valve. Now, a mechanical valve is made out of titanium, or a bioprosthetic valve is made out of a cow pericardium, which is the outer lining of a cow's heart. Our third type of congestive heart failure is hypertension. Now, we've all heard of blood pressure. That's what hypertension is. So we want to keep our blood pressure at 120/80. Now, that 120 is your systolic blood pressure. So as your heart pumps that strong beat, that blood rushes out through your aorta and into your body's systems. Well, that is your systolic blood pressure. Your diastolic blood pressure is when your heart is at rest, that pressure that is through your veins throughout the body, through your vessels. So, as a person with high blood pressure over time, that continued high pressure in your body's vessels, those vessels start to become hardened and thickened. And what this can often lead to is issues with your eyes, edema, and oftentimes stroke. So it's very important to keep an eye on your blood pressure. And number 4 is myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack. Now, if you can imagine, that heart is beating and a beating 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, for years on end. Well, that heart muscle, that strong heart muscle, needs a lot of oxygen and energy to keep it going all the time. Well, as we're not eating right and we're not exercising and we're overweight, well, plaque can start to build up in these vessels on the outside of the heart. Well, as that happens, they can be plugged with plaque. And if this happens, that area below where that plug begins to die, so that heart muscle cannot contract like it should. This oftentimes leads to a heart attack, so it is a very serious heart issue. So we as a group need to work together to push each other to prevent this disease from happening, since it is so prominent. And how do we do that? We need to exercise. We need to practice our healthy eating habits. We need to eat low sodium diets. We need to stop smoking. We need to take our medications if they're required by our doctors, if they're going to help prevent this disease from getting worse. And in many worst case scenarios, we may need a surgery to help our heart beat more efficiently. So thank you very much for your time today, and let's look forward as a group to working on our heart health. Thank you very much.